Hey guys, welcome to Black Rated. Welcome to another video, and today is time to discuss the midfield once again, but it's not the solutions for the short term or to the midterm success of Barcelona, but it is talking about the future, to talk about how are we going to plan out the midfield for the future, because as important as it is to, for me, solve the problem that we have right now, which is that, as we saw with the game against Inter Milan, how Arthur Vidal completely changed the attitude of the team, not only of the midfield but of the team, and why I feel, and to reinforce my statement, that why I think players like Kante, Alan, Arturo Vidal, players like that could add you a lot. This is why I think that those kind of players are important for now, but I never got to discuss what I think of should happen in the future, of why I wanted players like that, of exactly that age profile, of like, you know, already in their prime, gonna be leaving the team in a couple years time to leave space for the youngsters. And who are those youngsters? Who is gonna be the future of midfield for the next 10 years? I believe that as much of a crucial decision we have to take now, it's also crucial what we're gonna have to do in the future. And for me, this is the candidates to be the midfielders for Barcelona in 10 years time. Obviously, starting with the likes of Frenkie de Jong and Artur Melo, who I think they already established themselves. I think we already know that unless they're crippled by injuries or something really bad happens with their attitude or something like that, they should be midfielders to succeed at Barcelona for the next decade. They should be the new Xavi and Iniesta, without them having to be Xavi and Iniesta, because they're completely different profile players. They're both physically better than Xavi and Iniesta. They're quicker, stronger, more agile than the previous players cited, but they are different players in their own right. But their players are going to do the roles similar to what Xavi and Iniesta did for Barcelona, and they could complete an era and be part of a different catalog of Barcelona in 2 years to come. They're both players that have good touch of the ball, that hiding the ball they're really good, that the technique is exquisite, especially Arthur. I think Arthur, in terms of just hiding the ball, like, he's the kind of player that you're just not going to take the ball away from him ever. And Frenkie de Jong is a player that by stride he's like, it's not that he's powerful in the way he runs, but he has long strides in the way that he can, once he gets going, He's actually pretty fast, and he gets to get past the players and break through the lines with dribbles, which is really necessary to what we need right now and what we should be needing in the future. And they're both players that suit different profiles in the Barcelona system. I think that we both saw that as a double pivot, they work fine. And in a game where the ball's moving at a lot of speed and we are playing in the other team's half as double pivot, they are able to like, you know, sit down and control the midfield, while the number 10, in this case Arturo Vidal, was doing all defensive work and pressing through the front. That is something really important, but that's something that it's gonna have to be changed as other players progress in midfield. Players like, for example, coming up, Riqui Puig and Aleñá are, you know, they're for me the obvious candidates to also compete for a spot with the Jong and Arthur. Aleñá, I've always said that I think that he's a great player, that I think that he has a lot of quality, good technique, good ball movement, dribbling is actually pretty good. But Aleñá, for me, is, I don't want to say limited, that's not the right word for it, but I would say that Aleñá is not as adequately prepared, in my opinion, as Riqui Puig to compete for a spot in that midfield. And what I mean is that if Frenkie de Jong improves defensively, and when I mean improve defensively with Frenkie de Jong, I mean actually be able not exactly to do what Busquets did, because that is very difficult to do, but to work as a system, to be able to read the defensive play well enough that players like Riqui Puig and Arthur are going to be able to, you know, with the help defensively of them, together with Frenkie de Jong, we should be fine in the defensive aspect. And this is a Barcelona that, in terms of dominating the play by midfield, there's I don't think a better Barcelona midfield that we could have with these 3 players on it. I think Riqui Puig, someone I was talking to yesterday, they said that Riqui Puig is not as good as the Jong and Arthur, not yet, that they love the player but they don't think they're this good. Well, this has been the player that has been the best Barcelona player in both of the past 2 preseasons. He's a player that for me gives me the most illusion when I see Barcelona be. That of the youngsters that we have, I already said it, for me he's more talented than Ansu Fati. And Ansu Fati, we see the great talent that the kid has. Well, different positions obviously, but Riqui Puig has that Barcelona DNA. Well, Ansu Fati, I'm not saying that he doesn't. Riqui Puig is clearly Barcelona DNA through and through. And he's a player that he should be already in the first team. Players like Rakitic being here and Sergio Roberto eating minutes in midfield are minutes that I would much rather give to Riqui Puig. That would be much more valuable for Riqui Puig to develop quickly as a player, to establish himself as first team player as soon as possible, and then we can enjoy him for as long as possible as we can. That's not saying that Aleñá doesn't have a place in this team. He obviously does. I think that he is the most, number 10-ish player that I've named so far. I think that he could also play in the forward line, a lot like Rafinha. He's a player that, if we can give opportunities, if they're in a proper Barcelona system, Aleñá can be a player that can come from the bench and impact games and really give us something different than what we have in the pitch for the time being. Other players that are youngsters from Barcelona B or that are gonna be featuring for the B side for the years to come is probably Alex Collado or Ludovic Reis or Busquets, players that have different roles. Alex Collado, kind of like more like Aleñá, like number 10, they can play in the wing. By the way, what a goal that he scored in the weekend! It was absolutely sensational. That from Alex Collado. Alex Collado for me is a lot like Aleñá. I'm not gonna say he's ceiling, like he looks good. I've not seen enough of him. There is more to come of him, but what I've seen so far is that he's a player that's perfectly usable, and that they don't all have to be Xavi Iniestas. We just need a player that's going to be able to sit on the bench, and that coming from the bench, they're going to give us an impact. And when they have to feature, they're going to be happy with their minutes, and they're going to be giving us the impact that we need in the field. And I think Alex Collado is a player that we can perfectly utilize for moment speed. Ludovic Reis and Oriol Busquets. Now, these are both players that I think need to evolve as pivots, but they're both players that look quite alright for that position. And why do I say this? Let's say De Jong never adapts to playing him in the pivot position as we need him to be. Alright, that's perfectly fine. It still means Riqui Puig, Arthur and De Jong can have an important place in this team at some point, because I believe at home and the Camp Nou with a lot of possession, we don't need that struggle of a pivot in Barcelona. And there's that positions where maybe Ludovic Reis and Oriol Busquets can be really important for us, because Ludovic Reis, Oriol Busquets, they're both players that have good reading of the play, good defensive reading, they're good at playing out the back. They're both, physically somewhat imposing players that right now Oriol is playing at FC 20 in the Eredivisie, and Ludovic Reis in Barcelona B. They're both players that are, playing. They're both playing the way that they're supposed to be trained, with the Barcelona mentality, the Barcelona DNA, and I think that it's going to be really important to see their development. I think Ludovic Reis, when he came from Groningen, I had a lot of expectations of him. I have still a lot of expectations of him. I think that he can, and I hope that he evolves into the player for the future, into the player that we need a pivot, because that's the position where I see the most problems for us in going forward in the future. Then you have Ilaix Moriba. He's 16. He's a player that looks like a potential. Everyone is rating him already quite a lot, and you can see why. He looks a lot like Paul Pogba. If I have to describe someone really quickly for you, give you an idea of what kind of player he is, I imagine that that's probably Paul Pogba when he was 16. Player that physically is a physical specimen. It is unbelievable. that he is that at 16. You can only imagine how he's gonna develop when he gets like 21, 23 years old. It's gonna be unbelievable. He's gonna be a complete monster, and he's a good dribbler. He has a lot of skill. Good going forward. He's not exactly a pivot. That's not where I would play him. Could he play in a pivot? Maybe, but I think that he's too attack minded to play in a pivot position, and I think that his skill set could be used in midfield and could be properly used maybe as a number 10, sometimes as a number 8, but definitely as a number 5. I think that is not getting the best out of him at any point. He's 16 though. He's a player that we have the most time to work with, that he can progressively get into a team, and I'm sure that him playing as being a bench player for a couple years, he's not gonna, if he's a Barcelona and training with the first team, I'm sure that he won't have anything to complain about. And this is what I wanted to conclude with the players that we'd have at Barcelona right now. But that's not concluding this section in this video, because as I said with Ludovic Reis and Aurelio Busquets, I think that they're both players that, you know, I'm not sure. Like, I think they have a lot of potential. We definitely should give them chances. I'm not saying that we shouldn't. But there's a player that I think we need to look at in world football. And that's a player that if by any chance Ludovic Reis or Busquets are not ready to step it up, if they don't have enough in them to be, you know, complement to the Jong and Arthur and Riqui Puig, I think that there's a midfielder in Portugal that in my opinion looks like the key for Barcelona's midfield success going forward. And that is, if you had to compare Xavi, Iniesta, the Jong and Arthur are physically more imposing. They have longer strides, they are faster, they are more agile, and the same thing goes with Florentino Luis. Not that he has the defensive reading of Sergio Busquets, but he's 20 years old. He plays as a defensive midfielder for Benfica, and in my opinion, this is exactly the profile of player that we need. Not only he's way faster than Sergio Busquets, like physically more imposing. It's like if I had to give him a quick profile of players, like having a young Claude Makelele without the intensity profile. Like he can press very well, but it's not exactly that. But like physically, that's how he seems. A player that is and he's also a player that playing at the back, he's absolutely fantastic. Like for a player that has that much good defensive actions in him, that's good at intercepting, good at tackling, playing at the back, he has nothing to envy any of the midfielders listed in this list. Like, he's really good. He's very composed and has been playing at Benfica as a starter for over a season now. So, you know, he has a release cost, I believe, of 100 million, 120 million euros. Not saying that we should pay that for a central midfielder, especially for defensive central midfielder. But seeing as he's 20 years old, that he could be the player for the next 10 years, maybe an investment of like what we paid for the Jong and Arthur, like somewhere around 80, 85, 70 million euros for a player like that. You know, it's paying a lot for now, but then solving that position for the next 10 years. What do I think at the end of the day needs to be the midfield for Barcelona? Well, I would say of what I see right now, like currently right now, I see that Florentino Luis starts in midfield with De Jong and Arthur. I just don't see, like right now, my opinion might change in the future, and I hope it changes, because adding Riqui Puig to start in midfield would be fantastic. But you know, he can still get to play a lot of minutes, and for the time being, De Jong, Arthur and Florentino Luis in midfield, with Riqui Puig, Aleñá as the interior backups, with the likes of Ilaix Moriba also able to come in, and one of Ludovic Reis and Aurelio Busquets. That's a midfield for the next 10 years where you have a lot of talent. Alex Collado, I just don't see him succeeding at Barcelona, especially because he has Riqui Puig, Aleñá, De Jong, Arthur. Even I think he's competing with Ilaix Moriba, and Ilaix Moriba has 4 years on him. So, and in the wing, does he have the characteristics to play in the wing? Not exactly. I think that Alex Collado is going to be a player that's not going to succeed at Barcelona exactly just because he's too much of a number 10 that we just do not have a place for him in the team right now. But these are all players that in their own right could succeed, and they're all very young. De Jong 22, Arthur 23, Ricky Puig 20, Aleñá 21, Florentino 20, Ludovic Reis 19, Oriol 20, Ilex Moriba 16, Collado 20. They're all very talented young players, and if we can get the best out of them, if we can get the best out of the talent that we have, or the talent that we're going to buy, then that is the solution for the next 10 years. And with this, and coupling with the other young players in the squad like Longley, Umtiti, Junior Firpo, Semedo, Dembele, Abel Ruiz, Ansu Fati, all the youngsters that we have, Todibo, if we're able to get the best out of the team that we have by adding a few more pieces to the puzzle, then Barcelona is able to start a new cycle and again compete for all trophies with players that haven't won anything and that still have to win it all and have to prove it all at the highest stage of world football. Now, with all that said and done, leave me all your opinions in the comment section below. Comment, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, Blaugranas.